This is part of the reason why I'm writing a book to help people make decisions for themselves about what drugs they take and what kind of things they do to help their brains heal. 439 million prescriptions in 2013 for the 25 top psychiatric medications, and 4 out of 5 of them written by non-psychiatric prescribers. I think a few people are taking things that they don't need to take. This is what can happen if you're taking a psychiatric medication that you don't need or if it's too high a dose. Brain blunting, emotional flattening, and cognitive slowing. I had somebody come to me a couple weeks ago. She said, with your guidance, I have now successfully stopped taking venlafaxine, also known as Effexor. She was on a fairly high dose, 225 milligrams a day. She had kind of like she did have a heavy cocaine run, and there was some depression in her family. So I wasn't sure. Was it the cocaine that caused her depression, the depletion of neurotransmitters afterwards, or was this a genetic depression? When she took Effexor, she was not depressed and she was able to do things. She had a very stressful, high-pressure job, which changed to a less stressful, high-pressure, but also very high-profile job. But she had less stress. And she came below the stress threshold. That's back to the stress threshold again. She was underneath her stress threshold because she wasn't having GERD and other symptoms that happened for her when she was above it. She stopped the Effexor and she cleared up. She said, wow, I feel much sharper, smarter, and now I can cry at a movie and laugh at a joke. I ask myself this question every time I recommend a medication. I consider it an important part of informed consent. Will this medicine help or hinder my patient's healing flow? This is a particularly important consideration. If someone has a hard or hardened case of anxiety or depression, they may not be able to talk their way out of it with therapy. When needed, antidepressants and mood stabilizers can save lives and lifestyles. Not taking one when it's needed could leave an otherwise good healing plan spinning its wheels and stuck in its tracks. Disastrous consequences can happen if someone doesn't treat a serious bipolar disorder condition or a serious depression. Soft anxiety and depression, as you might think from my earlier causes of suffering, would be primarily due to unreasonable stress and childhood adversity, and less to do with genetics. The hope is, if someone's using a medication for soft anxiety or soft depression, they may be able to stop it successfully after a course of psychotherapy and other forms of healing guidance. 3 reasons to take a medication for your mind. Restore the flow of healing when suffering blocks it, and guidance isn't enough to relieve it. For psychiatric conditions you can't talk your way out of, I call them neurological conditions because they're really brain-based. We do have a lot of neurological conditions in psychiatry that are in the brain, in the genes, and are not particularly responsive to the various forms of guidance. Some people would say, well, what about spiritual guidance? I say, well, yeah, I believe in miracles, but in the meantime, take something so you don't kill yourself. Which is the third one, stay alive long enough to heal. 3 reasons to stop taking a medication for your mind. It's not helping, and it's blunting your feelings. Medication is making things worse or otherwise doing more harm than good. I'm always nervous when I prescribe medication. I have such mixed feelings about it. On one hand, it's such a blessing to be able to give somebody something that can be very helpful. On the other hand, it's scary as hell to give somebody something that could harm them. There is harm that can be done with psychiatric medication. We have to be very careful about it. And if the medication places someone at risk of addiction, benzodiazepines, Xanax, Valium, all that, especially risky if somebody's had a history of addiction.